The tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Darth Plagueis the Wise was a very wealthy Mun male originally known as Hego Damask. The details of how Hego Damask became a Sith are unknown, but his master was called Darth Tenebrous. After becoming a Sith, Hego Damask would have shedded his original persona and become Darth Plagueis. And since Plagueis and Tenebrous followed the Sith rule of two, it is likely that at some point Plagueis killed Tenebrous and then became the Sith Master himself. Then Plagueis discovered a child that was very powerful in the Force. This child was called Sheev Palpatine. Palpatine became the apprentice of Plagueis and he took on the new name of Darth Sidious. Darth Plagueis was driven to find a way to cheat death and to live forever. He was also driven to end the Republic's grip over the galaxy and wanted to bring a new order in the form of a Sith Empire. Darth Plagueis was considered very wise and he studied the Force in ways that it had never been studied before. He believed that there was a way to control the Force so that an individual could cheat death. He also feared the Force. He feared that someday it would possibly strike back against him if he became too powerful. He worked with Palpatine to try and develop the skill of using the Force to cheat death, but he was never able to find a way to do this. He did discover a way to project his consciousness into a new body, and this was a skill that Palpatine used many years later to cheat death. Plagueis was also a very rich and very influential businessman. He was able to influence and infiltrate the Republic's political sector, and he managed to get Palpatine a position of Chancellor in the Galactic Senate. Plagueis had developed a plan for how he and Palpatine could slowly manipulate the Senate until they could declare it an empire. Palpatine remarked many years later that Plagueis was so focused on cheating death that he never really considered being the emperor. Plagueis used his vast wealth to fund a separatist movement that was manipulated by Darth Sidious. The separatist movement developed a droid army that was also funded by Plagueis. Sidious and Plagueis then planned the creation of a clone army that would fight on the side of the Republic. They had this army created under the guise of being requested by a dead Jedi called Sifo Dyas. While creating the army, they had a chip inserted into the brain of each clone that, when activated, would instruct them to kill all Jedi. Plagueis' plan was working and he was making strides in his attempts to cheat death, but he was overcome by his fears of death. He trusted his apprentice Darth Sidious and he felt that they could break the idea of the rule of two. He felt there was no need for Sidious to try to usurp him. Instead, they could rule the galaxy together and live forever. These things blinded him to how dark and manipulative his apprentice was. While their plan to control the galaxy was taking shape, Palpatine secretly took on an apprentice called Darth Maul and developed his own plan to overthrow and kill Darth Plagueis. One night, Sidious sneaked into Darth Plagueis' home and murdered him in his sleep. Sidious then went on to fully enact Plagueis' plan and became the first galactic emperor. Sidious also used the skills that Darth Plagueis taught him and cheated death. The true tragedy of Darth Plagueis' story is that he was the one who should have been the emperor, but his great weakness was that he was blinded by his fear of death and his trust in his apprentice. Hopefully Plagueis' story is told in a movie in the future because he is a great story to tell.